This is a sideboard that my sister-in-law gave to me, and I thought it was so much fun. It had really nice bones to it, but it didn't look like this when I first got it. This is the way it first looked when I got it. It had an oak colored wood, which was fine, but it really had that kind of dated feel to it. Plus, it had been exposed to a certain amount of sun, and so there were areas that were lighter and areas that were darker based on the amount of sun that was on it. So take a look at how I refurbished it. The first step for any of my furniture remodels is to remove all the drawers and the doors, take off all of the hinges, especially if I'm planning on painting, because I don't want them to get paint on them. I also want to take off all of the doorknobs. In this case, there was a mirror on the back, so I also removed that mirror because I didn't want to risk getting any paint on it or having it injured in any other way. This particular unit was a little different because it had these drop-down shelves on each of the sides, and so those also needed to be removed with all of their hinges. I then painted it with chalk paint. This is one of my favorite ones to use because I like that matte look to it, and it works so great because you don't actually have to remove any prior paint or finishing. All you have to do is rough them up a little bit with some sandpaper, and then this chalk paint will stick, and it does a really good job. A lot of times the packaging will state that you only need to do one coat, but in my experience, 2 coats is almost always needed. For the top of this piece, it was a little bit interesting because I also had to work around this kind of fake marble section. So I didn't want to get the paint on that section. I could have taped it off, but I decided just to be careful instead. For doing the second coat of paint, I have to make sure that I wait at least 2 hours between hand because otherwise the moisture from the paint will actually start to take off a little bit of that first coat. So you have to give it at least 2 hours to dry. Distressing the edges is one of my favorite things to do with furniture, and the reason for this is I feel like it draws the designs out, all of the intricate cuts to the wood. It makes them a little bit more noticeable. Not only that, but it also gives it that rustic quality that I like so much. I like to do the sanding by hand in a project like this because I want to be careful not to take off too much. This one has a little bit more detail work, so if I was using an electric sander, it would potentially take too much off. So for me, I just wanted to drop down to just below the level of that paint on those portions. I not only did all of the edges, but I also did around the little design that was on that top portion, and I feel like it really makes the design stand out more. After sanding, I just use a damp cloth to wipe off all of the residual dust. My final coat is to put a finishing wax over the top. It has a special round brush that you use to put it on, and it works pretty well for being able to get it in all of those grooves. It does take longer to dry, 24 hours to be dry to the touch, and 28 days to be completely cured. I do like using this finishing wax because of the fact that it's slightly waterproof, and so it makes it just a little bit easier to wash off. Now, if you wanted it to have more of a matte finish, you wouldn't have to do this, but I like to buff it off for this project because when I buff it with a soft cloth, then it makes it just a little bit shinier. I don't do this until after the 24 hours has elapsed though. Now it's time to put everything back together. This is probably my favorite part of the project. I'm able to put all of the hinges back on with the doors and the shelves. I also put the handles back in. For this case, I actually decided to keep all of the handles and knobs because I felt like it matched this unit so well. This was a unit that was made probably in the 70s, but it was made to look like it was from the 50s. And so it just kind of maintained that farmhouse country look that I really wanted. So I didn't switch those out the way that I usually would. This unit also has a handle on the end for pushing it around, and I was able to put the knobs up there, as well as replacing the mirror with the frame that it has. My last step was to replace the wheels. It had some already, but they were very small and didn't roll very well, so I replaced them with some more modern ones. I think it's really fun to take these old antique pieces and give them that farmhouse kind of look to them, and this is so fun with the curves and the little bit of leaves here, and honestly, it's been so great to have in my dining room. I'm super grateful that my sister-in-law decided to move it out of her house.